Pasuk says in the beginning of this week's parsha, "Vayishma Moshe lekol chosno vayas kol asher amar." Yisro listened to his father-in-law, to the advice that his father-in-law gave him about how to go ahead and set up all the courts and the system of how to be able to run and make an organization. How to run the Bnei Yisrael, how to be able to lead them properly, all the different layers. And it says, "Vayas kol asher amar." He did everything that his father-in-law Yisro told him. And the Torah Mincha is a student of the Rashba. When the Talmid of the Rashba, the early Rishonim, he says as follows. He says, we learn from here a very important lesson. What's the Torah telling us? That he listened to his father-in-law. Believe it or not, one of the lessons is not to listen to your father-in-law. So maybe we'd add on a fourth lesson. But these are the lessons that he says to listen to, that we learn from. A person should not say to himself, wow, I'm a perfect person. I'm so great. Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest of the great. He knew everything. He was a complete, perfect individual. And still, he needed to hear advice from another person. No one should ever say, I'm so smart, I'm so learned, I have so much experience, I don't need to seek advice from someone else. V'od lamadnu, the second lesson, she'esh l'adam l'kabel ha'emes, misha amro. A person, if he hears the truth from another person, accept it. Might not have been part of your original agenda. It might not have been the way that you were going. It might not have been what you had planned for yourself. But if you hear the truth from someone, and you know it's the truth, take it and connect to that advice that you received. And thirdly, he says, whenever you then act based on that advice, or give it over, you should always say it in the name of the person that gave it to you. Should be say it b'shem amro, in the name of the person. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, again, Moshe Rabbeinu was the highest of the high, and even he needed to seek an eitzah. He needed to go ahead and get some direction, get some understanding in life. And the Tzur Amor writes in this week's parsha that Hashem specifically made it this way, meaning Hashem could have given this advice to Moshe. He specifically set this up in a way. If you think about the whole story, that Moshe ran away from Mitzrayim, he ends up bumping into these women. He marries one of them, the daughter of Yisro. Because of that, Yisro comes back later on and gives this advice. All this is to teach this important lesson that you need to seek advice. Part of learning Torah is not just how many hours you put into the Beis Medrash. It's not about only how many dapim of Chazara we do, and it's about how many shiurim we go to and how late we stay in the Beis Medrash. All those are extremely important. But there's another part to learning and being able to be successful in life, an integral part, and that is seeking advice. Having a Rabbi, having a mentor that a person could learn from and be able to get to new levels. It's interesting, the Ibn Ezra and the Bar Banel point out that even though the Pasuk says that Moshe did everything that Yisro told him, it's not exactly true. If you take a look at the Psukim, Moshe added on a little bit more. For example, Yisro told him he should make judges. Moshe, you can't do it all on yourself. It can't be all on your shoulders. Make some other judges. Let them judge. So Moshe did that. But Moshe also put in shotrim, police officers, to enforce whatever the judges were going to paskin, whatever they were going to rule on. So he added on. But yet, it says that he did everything that Yisro advised him. So there are different explanations in the Mefarshim how to understand this. But one of the explanations is that at the end of the day, it was all triggered by Yisro. Meaning Yisro gave him the plan. Now Moshe was on the ground. Moshe knew that even if I have all these judges, I need enforcement. We need the law enforcement. Right? We need people to make it happen. So practically, he had once Yisro gave him the advice that this is a great idea, this is a system that you should build, but Moshe knew I needed to add on more things. But at the end of the day, it was all coming from that advice. Very quickly, very often sometimes, we do get advice from people, and then we change it a little bit. And then all of a sudden, it's my idea. It's all mine, yeah. Baloney. You weren't thinking about that at all beforehand. This person planted this ingenious idea into your life, how to live, how to grow, how to develop, and you tweaked it a little bit, and all of a sudden, it's all my creativity, and look how great I am. We see from Moshe a certain amount of humility. That even again, Moshe was the greatest of the great. Not only did he seek advice and accept advice, but even after that, when he implemented it in a way that maybe, if he would have just stuck to Yisro's plan, maybe it wouldn't have worked out at the end, and then he could always blame the person that gave him the advice. You see, look what I listened to, my father-in-law. Look what came out. You know, an easy blame. No, he tweaked it, and he still said, "I did everything that you told me to do." A certain humility that he had, that a person needs. That when we seek advice, to always remember the person that gave the advice, to have gratitude to that person, to continue to connect to that person, to try to let them continue developing you. The Mishnah says, the Pasuk says in Mishlei, the Pasuk says in Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Tezvav, 12:15. Pasuk says, Derech Evil Yashar Be'inav. The Evil, we'll call him the lost person right now, he does what's Yashar Be'inav, whatever he wants. The Shomer Le'etza Chacham. The person that listens to Eitzah, to advice, he's a Chacham. And that's how the Targum explains that it's telling you that someone who listens to advice, he's a Chacham. He's a wise man. But Rabbeinu Yonah says something totally different. He explains that actually the subject is the Chacham. That the Chacham, a smart person, he's very learned, he knows a lot. What does he do? He is Shomea Eitzah. It's not that if you listen to advice, you are a Chacham. A Chacham listens to advice. Someone you can learn a lot and know a lot and been there and done that. But if you go ahead, if you're really a Chacham, if you're a wise man, you're going to still seek advice from someone else to help guide you and to show you different areas that you might not have understood. The Medrash says, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, at first glance it's a contradiction, but quickly it's not. The Mishnah says in Perek Beis, Mar be'etza, mar be'tfuna. A person who goes and seeks a lot of advice, he has a lot of advisors, mar be'tfuna, you become wiser. You have a different level of wisdom. So what would we have said? What's the order? First go get advice, and then you'll be a wise man. You'll have a lot of information, you'll be able to apply it. But later on in Perek Hey, the Mishnah says, Ben arba'im lebina, when it comes to 40 years old, you have bina. Ben chamishim le'etza, and when you're 50 years old, then already you have advice. It sounds like bina comes before advice. So which one is it? Is it first we have understanding, and then advice? Or do we have advice and then understanding? Okay, so anyone who just paid attention to what I said understands the difference between these two Mishnayos. One is talking about the person receiving advice, and one is talking about the person giving advice. When it comes to receiving advice, no matter how young you are and how inexperienced you are in life, you haven't been there, you haven't done that. A more person goes and seeks advice at whatever stage they are in life, they will become more Bina type of people. They'll have a deeper understanding. Whether you're 5 years old, 10 years old, 50 years old, 100 years old, it doesn't matter. You seek advice, you will deepen your understanding. Advice comes first. When it comes to giving advice, and therefore the person that you come to seek advice from, it's always better to go to the person that has more life experience, more of seeing what's out there, more of the knowledge base that they have been able to build. So you could learn and get Bina, acquire Bina at the age of 40, but the person who's 50, who has more of a life experience, he's able to give a different type of advice. So as we go and we embark, Baruch Hashem, we're all chachamim over here, very, very wise people sitting in this room. So as we embark to try to go ahead and seek advice, which you all must do if we want to continue to be wise and to continue to be successful, We should look for the person that we could relate to in the greatest way that we feel is going to understand us, have that experience, have that world knowledge, have that Torah knowledge to be able to guide us forward. In Parshas Bereshis, the Sefer Ksava Kabbalah, he focuses his parish on the Chumash is very much looking at the different words in Lashon HaKodesh. So there he's speaking about what an eitz is. What is a tree? A tree is an eitz. So he notes that the word eitz also is used in the word atzat inav, when a person closes his eyes tight. It's also that same root, atzat. And also eitzah, advice. He says, what's the common denominator between these three things? So he says, what's unique about a tree, that you call something a tree versus a stalk? Let's say, well, why is the one called a tree and one called a stalk? So he says the difference between a tree is that all the little pieces are extremely tight together. It creates almost one unit. There are a lot of little pieces of wood, right? But it all forms one unit, so stuck together that you can't bend it. The vegetable, the stalk, etc., they're looser. The fibers inside are looser, and therefore they could bend with the wind, etc. The trunk of a tree is so stuck, is so one, that it is able to be stronger. He says that's what the word really means. The word means to take different pieces and bring it together to get a wholesome entity or a wholesome thing. So when I close my eyes really tight, what am I doing? I'm taking two parts, the upper part of my eye, the lower part of my eye, I'm squeezing it tight to try to make it one. That's the same thing as a strong tree, which the different pieces are coming to one. And he says the same thing is what an eitzah is. What is that we're trying to get? I'm smart already. I learned. I've been there. I've done that. I know this stuff already. So what's the point of the eitzah? Why am I searching? Why am I going now to ask advice from someone? The answer is because I'm looking for the full completion. I'm looking for someone to be able to fill in. Are there any holes? Is there something that I'm missing? Is there something maybe I have a personal bias in making my decision? Is there something that maybe it's my taiva, a certain desire that's pushing me to go ahead and make a decision or to do something? Is it maybe because I was already invested so heavily in something and I'm going and going and going and working so hard, I've put money into it and put time and put my effort in. What, I'm going to switch directions now? I'm going to go ahead and I was planning on working in this field for a living and now I'm going to switch, or I've been working for so long, not making that much money and, to jump ship and move forward to something different. Am I really going to do that? It's very hard for people to move that. It's very hard for someone that already put time and effort and money into something to then switch course into something that's maybe more profitable or an area that they could be more successful. So you need someone from the outside to help us see if all the pieces are there. So the person giving us the eitzah is looking to take all the pieces and bringing it together in a tight way into one unit. Something I'll just speak about personally from my friends. I'm not that old, but I have friends from many, many years ago. And I've seen that my friends that have people that they can consistently and continuously seek advice from, Baruch Hashem, they're a lot more successful than the people that weren't able to do that or form those relationships at an earlier stage. And even if you don't get an earlier stage, you want to get at a later stage. So it's really, really important. It should be part of our goals being in yeshiva, our goals in life, wherever we are, to make sure that we're finding those people that we could seek advice from. We invest in those relationships, and we actually seek the advice. We seek the advice, we grow from that advice, we're able to use that advice in building our lives, and then Bezrat Hashem, we'll all be able to have a perfectly complete, tight lifestyle where we're able to hit all our goals in the most successful way. Shavua Tov.